But this week is actually 20th anniversary of Randy Orton's debut on the WWE roster. And you guys, people know this is the podcast. They know by now that what's weird for me is that I was away for, I would say, 85% of Randy Orton's run. Because remember, I stopped watching wrestling. People don't know, I stopped watching wrestling right after WrestleMania 18, which was at the end of March. Orton debuted weeks later. I stopped watching. Obviously, know who Orton was through the years, but didn't really watch his run. So I'm watching all this stuff in hindsight and whatnot. And obviously, he's had a fantastic career, arguably one of the best careers in history of pro wrestling.
Sounded like you just said Kai and Tai.
Kai and Tai. Remember Kai and Tai?
Yeah. Michinoku and Dick to go.
Dick to go. So I guess we can kind of revisit what we discussed back in the fall today, but probably more because I wasn't going to do this initially, but then I got into a big discussion on Twitter on Monday, which got a lot of people in the IWC pretty much jacked up, and great discussions about Orton's career and where he ranked. And all
Wait, the IWC got in their feelings? I would have never have guessed.
No, to be honest, it was actually pretty cordial. It was actually pretty cordial, to be honest with you.
Oh my God, they didn't say something they shouldn't? Wow, I'm so surprised.
No, exactly. It's weird, I know. Some of the podcasts we deal with, I deal with also too on a daily basis. We discuss Orton's career. So like I recorded something for the Wrestling Retrospective podcast, which will drop on Saturday or Sunday this week. Whenever I decided to drop it. Basically, the title being, is Randy Orton a top 10 all-time WWE superstar? And we discuss, like, obviously all these discussions about WWE Mount Rushmores and who's good of this era, that era. I don't think it's an argument that he's probably Mount Rushmore of the last 20 years. I think that's an argument.
Yeah, snap call.
Snap call. I mean, looking at Bruce Western era, PG into this era now. I mean, obviously Cena's in there, and fucking, I guess Lesnar was still considered to be there.
Sure.
I mean, and then there's Orton, and you can debate fourth spot, whatever. Maybe it's Roman, maybe it's not Roman. I don't know, but his career has been it's 20 years, and I've said this for a while now, that to me, when I look at Orton, my best comparison of Orton outside the parlance of WWE and pro wrestling, I call him the Tim Duncan of the WWE, because he's never too high or too low. He's been so steady throughout his 20-year career. Obviously, there's been some hiccups here and there in terms of like personal issues, but for the most part, he's never missed any significant amount of time. Really, he's always been there, pretty much. I mean, to my knowledge, anyway. I mean, I don't remember him being out more than maybe, I'd say, like 4 or 5 months at a time, maybe, if that, and it's been very minimal at best.
Yeah.
So, so like, to me, like, I look at Orton, like, he's still climbing in that area. Well, I'm not so much as character, but more so just as a presence. He's in that now Undertaker-ish type of thing now. Never the tippy top guy, but the most dependable guy on the roster. Where, longevity factor. So Taker, obviously 30-year career, retired last year, or year and some amount of change ago. Orton's now 20 years in now. And I'm sorry, I think this guy will be going another 10 years, 5-10 years, easily. He's in fantastic shape. It's easier to do this now in this era than at any point of pro wrestling.
It also doesn't help that they're not traveling as much. That
helps too, especially.
He got a couple years of not having to pull the loop and do 4 nights and then have 1 night off and then pull the loop again and then have 1 night off. That unfortunately a lot of guys, Cena, the name that pops out, was having to make towns every night to make sure that the crowd got what they paid for and shit like that.
Let me ask you this: when did you first see Randy Orton?
His debut.
Oh, you were there from the beginning. And what was your impression? Did you see him and say, "Yeah, that's the guy"?
I don't know if that was my first finger on it. Was more like because I remember his debut and they were like, "Oh, this is 2nd generation or 3rd generation Randy Orton," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, so he's got some lineage, so he's definitely gonna know what he's doing."
Right.
Good guess. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I think it was just the normal, let's see what happens kind of thing. He has all the potential in the world. He had the look. He had the charisma. That wasn't never in question. I knew he'd get cheered because, the ladies in the crowd would always, woo, every time he came out. So, So it was one of those things where it worked. It worked for his character.
That's gotta be a
yeah, no, that's fine. I don't know that I would have said that he would be a top 10 all time when he made his debut, but I would say that he's a guy that's, as long as health goes his way, that he'll be serviceable for an extended period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If looking at the guys at OPW back in 2001, 2002, like Cena, Lesnar, Orton, Batista, Shelton Benjamin, a couple other guys that were there at the time, trying to crack the WWE main roster. I would have guessed Orton would have been someone that would have been a star from the word go. Just he had the look. He was great in the ring. Like he had the package. Like you look at the OPW highlight stuff. It's like yeah, that guy is definitely. He may not be the top guy, but that guy stands out more than anybody else.
Well, the only negative that I know Randy had going against him was his attitude.
Right.
So that was one of those things where. What?
No, but
you're frozen on my screen, so.
I am.
Yeah.
I hear you though.
No, that's fine. No, so yeah, he was always fighting against himself. Once he finally got himself figured out, he was definitely going to be a major player. He obviously had a head start on a couple guys, Benjamin and Brock Lesnar per se, because those guys were collegiate wrestlers, and they weren't doing the bumps and everything that guys like Randy was doing right away. So. Yeah, but Randy was definitely a major player.
Now you're cutting it off now. Oh, we ain't doing this bullshit again. Fuck that. If this happens, I'm going to my phone immediately. I'm not even gonna fuck with this.
All right, whatever.
It's okay. Hold on, give me a second to see because you froze on my end now too.
Hey. So for those of you at home that are gonna get this,
and I didn't. It's all right. I'm gonna go into.
They call me Dr. Love. Oh, the pick is in for the New England Patriots.
Offensive lineman from Tennessee.
Fuck.
Not even fucking around.
Oh, there he is.
Still recording. Okay.
Yeah, so I know you're not going to edit this, so we'll just go right back into our conversation. Orton, once he figured out his own self-demons, the only thing that was going to stop him was however far he wanted to go and, what he wanted to do. So definitely a major player right away. Went right into Evolution, which, Evolution is a mystery. Youngest world champion at the time. I can't say enough positive things about Randy Orton. I will probably tell you guys this much: it'll be a hard opportunity for him not to be in my top 10 of the 40 that we're inevitably going to do.
Well, I mean, when I did my podcast a while ago, I wasn't even like doing it in rankings. I just like the best, like, and this is what we were saying on social media about, okay, so instead of like ranking them, just put your guys that no matter where you rank them in the top 10, they're in the 10 minus slice it. It's the easiest way to do it. So who your lock 10s, obviously. So the Hogans, the Cenas, the Austins, the Rocks, the Michaels, the Bretts, the Takers. So that was my 7. Who am I missing on that one? Savage, 8. So then you have two. In my opinion, you have 2 guys really that you can debate. Like 8 through 15 is actually really interesting because you can go anywhere. You can go Jericho, you can go Angle, you can go Guerrero. I mean, there's a lot of names in the hat. I came up with I actually ended up having Lesnar in as my 9th guy, and then 10 became interesting because 10 was like, okay, well, I'm missing Hunter, so it's between Hunter and Orton. Like you and I agreed that that Orton was definitely locked 20, definitely 15, and closer to 10 you realize. So then you start.
I believe I said I was going to probably have him in my top 10.
Okay. So So like,
I will have him ahead of Savage.
I think as the time goes on, that might be the case. I think as what's going to help his case, especially too, is longevity. I think you can make an argument then. Let's say
if I'm just putting WWE run versus WWE run,
right.
I'm taking Orton. If you put in the WCW stuff, then we can have a conversation about who it is. But Orton, Grand Slam has held pretty much every title that they've fucking had. Tag team, stable, didn't matter. Randy was always there. I take that over a couple of cocaine-fueled WrestleManias and, the Miss Elizabeth storyline personally. That doesn't mean that Savage won't be in my top 15 because I think it's an absolute slam dunk that he's somewhere in the 11 through 15 range. But I don't have him ahead of Randy.
Randy.
Well, the thing is Randy's also never been a face until now.
He was he in the Christian feud? Like,
yeah, he's always been a dick.
Smidge?
Yeah, he's always been a dick.
He's the best.
Even whenever Evolution turned on him, he was still a dick.
I mean, he's best in the heel anyway.
He's the Ricochet of storylines. He's still a dick.
But
I think unless it was one of those like short 3-month runs where he was a face and then turned on somebody right away again. I've never really seen Orton have this much comical fun and this much of being a face as he has with Riddle, and I think that's something that you can't take for granted because that's something that Randy's never had the ability to do. And I think Randy's taken the ball and ran with it. And I think I've enjoyed this Randy Orton as much as I've enjoyed probably any other Randy Orton outside of Evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even with Legacy, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase Jr. That was his stuff with Taker and his dad. So yeah, no. I think that there's a very strong chance that Randy Orton will be in my top 10. Probably closer than most people will have him towards a top spot.
So spoiler alert, I had him 11, but you can argue 10B because as I told you, I gave my lock 7, lock 8. Okay, 9 was Lesnar, and then it was really the Triple H and Orton, and both guys really very mature. You think about it, both guys have the argument of longevity. I think the only edge that Triple H has this point was the stuff he's done. Not just in the ring, but also with NXT and all that, the influence he's had in the business obviously, as he's gotten older. But
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, spoiler alert, Triple H might end up in my top 3.
Whoa. We're gonna do a WWE 40 very in a few months, so obviously it's gonna be fun, and we're gonna figure that out going forward. I recorded a podcast earlier today on the Orton top 10 discussion, and I said this too, also the same thing you're saying, that I think in 5 years, Orton's a lot top 10, and you have to take out guys like Savage and guys like, honestly, Bret Hart might be on that list too as well.
I don't know that I'll have Bret Hart in my top 10.
Ooh, don't piss Jim
Bret
off.
Hart.
Don't piss him off.
See, that's what happens. Jim doesn't come on the show. Fuck Bret Hart.
He's on the show.
Jim,
hey, Bret Hart.
No, not hey Bret Hart. We just wouldn't have a Bret Hart conversation.
But again, what's the fun in that?
I respect Jim.
That's true.
We had a civil debate on fuck Bret Hart, and we've moved on from our debate on fuck Bret Hart.
Find the archives, by the way.
Again, good play. Oh, this pick is in for the Bengals. Let's go somebody. I don't know who.
Is Bengals on the clock yet?
Oh, yeah, I know who it is.
The pick is in.
Oh, for the Bengals?
Yeah, Craig knows who it is, but he's not telling me yet, thankfully.
Do you get another offensive lineman?
Sure, why not? That or defense, one of the two.
No.
No, we should draft a punter. Evan McPherson worked out really well for us when we drafted a kicker. We should draft a punter. Legendary.
Punter with no Super Bowl. The Orton's career is, like I said, it's one of those things where,
the more you like I didn't get the hype initially. I was like, okay, he's good, but why is he so revered? And then the more you watch him, you're like, oh, I get it now. I get it. He's really that good. The psychology is what stands with me more than anything else. He gets the business. He gets the little things right.
I mean, we're 1 3-month Randy Orton title run away from Drew McIntyre holding the title from WrestleMania to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Like Corbin.
No fan, champion, kind of thing. So, I look at it from that perspective. Randy's always been that guy. Like, you can go to Randy for whatever you need. Oh, we need him to win the title. We need him to lose to somebody. We need him to put somebody over. I mean, hell, WrestleMania 30, the Miracle on Bourbon Street with Bryan. I mean, he was in the triple threat match with Batista bumping his fucking ass off.
Right.
I can't say enough positive things about Randy and what he's done for the business and what he's done for the guys. I mean, hell, one of his best stuff was his stuff with FTR when it was FTRKO. And the three of them worked together before.
What? That was the thing?
Before Dax and Cash now left and went to AEW. Towards the end, like, he was working with them, and they were like a trio. That stuff was really fun. Randy's always been good, and Randy will always be a guy that I will hold to a higher standard for his in-ring stuff. So you'll never hear me say a bad word about Randy, the wrestler. You may hear about, or the man, you might hear me say a bad thing about his character and the role that he's playing, but you won't hear me say many negative things about the individual himself. So definitely kudos to Randy. Congratulations on 20 years. I'm excited to see what happens next for him. I'm excited to see basically what happens with this whole RK Bro stuff. I mean, I hope it doesn't end with the two of them feuding, but the way this has always ended in WWE is there's some kind of feud.
Of course.
We can't just go our separate ways and move on with our lives. There always has to be somebody getting kicked in the ding-ding and then punted, and then they're out for 3 weeks. So
He's